Over the last couple of days, Nigerians have been protesting across the country. And some of that protest has been peaceful. Some have not been so peaceful. But I felt like now is the time to just share a few thoughts about it. And I want to start by talking about the very substance of the protest itself. The people who organized the protest called it end of bad governance protest. Now, what do I think about that? I believe that the solution to bad governance is it's not protesting. Protesting has never, I don't think there's any country in the world today that you can look at and say, oh, that country protested and look, they used to have like bad governance. The country was riddled with corruption and incompetence. Nothing was working in that country. But immediately they protested. After the protest, look, that country is a great country now. They are prosperous. Everybody is successful. Things are now easy in that country. I don't think there's any country in the world right now that you can point to that strategy has worked. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand why people feel that there is a need for protest. I understand that, how hard things are. The inflation has been really terrible. Insecurity has not helped. There has been a lot of moves that the current administration has actually taken that you can point to that has led to a lot of hardship and a lot of difficulty in the lives of Nigerians. And there are also things that I believe that the administration can do, which for some reason they are not doing, which would have helped to ease some of the burdens that people are currently experiencing. And so there are legitimate concerns, legitimate reasons, so to speak, for protesting. But the point I'm trying to make is this. The problem of bad governance is almost always tied to two things. Number one is bad personnel in governance. So that's when you have the wrong people in power, in positions of authority in the country. And that's number one problem. So if the people that you've elected or the people who have somehow gotten themselves into these positions of power, if there are people who are incompetent, if there are people who are corrupt, then that's the number one problem, the number one cause of bad governance. Because you cannot expect good governance from incompetent and corrupt people. That has never happened. That can never happen. Now, the number two reason for bad governance in any society usually is the problem of bad ideas. Bad ideas, bad values, bad principles. When you try to organize a society around ideas that don't work, a lot of the time, what you are going to have is failure. You are going to have incompetence. You're going to have corruption. You're going to have a society that basically doesn't work. And now, when you bring that home now, you look at the Nigerian situation, you discover that two of those problems, you can find them here. We have, number one, the problem of bad personnel, basically, in government. And number two, we have the problem of bad ideas. And in a way, those two problems are tied because a lot of the time, part of how you can know good leaders is the type of ideas that they embody, the type of ideas that they come to power with. And if you get it right in leadership, many times, good leaders come up with the right kind of ideas that is going to produce the kind of results that people want. Going back to the protest cannot solve any of those two problems. Which brings me back to the second point I actually want to talk about. I don't know how serious this is actually, but I've seen some comments and some things online insinuating because, some of the protests in certain areas have turned violent and some people have lost their lives, which is very, very tragic. In things like this, you never want lives to be lost. You always hope that the protest is peaceful and that protesters, do whatever they need to do while maintaining law and order. That way, there is no cause for violence or any loss of lives. But unfortunately, in this particular ongoing protest, lives have been lost already. And because of some of the events that have led to that, I've seen some people saying that, oh, now the protest is no longer even about bad governance or whatever it is that the protest was about before. But now the goal is that the president has to go. The idea is that Tinubu has to go. The president has to step down. And I also think there's a need to address this. Asking the president to step down is not a legitimate request in a protest. As a society, I think that it's time that we begin to understand the importance of law and order. I spoke earlier about the importance of building a society around the right principles around the right ideas. One of the fundamental principles of good societies that work, is that principle of law and order. And that's to say that you don't just do things however you like, the way you want it. You can't have a complex society filled with millions of people, in our case Nigeria, hundreds of millions of people, and then you just think that things can be done however it is that you want to do it. That's the recipe for anarchy. You want to go that way, if everybody does whatever they want the way they want it, you are not going to have a country. Everything is going to fall apart, because your interest and my interest, the things you want to do and the things that I want to do, they are going to clash a lot of the time. And if everybody can just do whatever they want whenever they want to do it, then those interests, when they clash, is going to lead to anarchy, is going to lead to chaos. And that's why you need to have law and order, and people need to operate within the confines of the law. There is a constitutional process for getting rid of the president. It's called impeachment. That's the way presidents leave power. That's one of the ways. Let me correct myself there. It's one of the ways that a president can leave office. The first way, obviously, is the way that brought the president in the first place, which is the election that happens every 4 years. But there could be situations, there could be instances where people legitimately feel that, no, we cannot continue with this particular leader. You know, the country can feel like this person has to go. Certain lines have been crossed, certain things have been done so wrong that this person cannot continue to hold power. We cannot even wait till the next election cycle to get rid of this person. And in those kind of situations, you kickstart the articles of impeachment. And the idea that we can demand the resignation of a president via protest is not the right way to go about things. And as a country, I think we have suffered enough from doing things the wrong way. And it's time that we need to start learning how to do things the right way, and to start organizing our society in a way that, you know, the right way to do things actually work. So when you want a president to leave, the right way is either to organize politically towards the next election to make sure you're able to vote them out, or, and this is not just even talking about the president, this is also referring to any political office holder, or the other way is to engage the right authorities, the right channels, to kickstart the process of impeachment. That is the correct way of doing things, and we need to begin to learn how to do things correctly. The next thing that I want to touch on briefly is the idea of or the problem, forgive me, of violence and vandalism. As citizens, we have the right to protest. The Constitution guarantees that. And that means that when we have, a legitimate grievance, we can go out there and make our voices heard. We can, in some ways, shape policy and shape the direction of governance by protesting and using that channel to get our voices and our demands out there. However, it's important to know that the law or the Constitution does not guarantee or protect the right to violence, the right to anarchy, the right to chaos. That is not protected under the law. That's not protected under the Constitution. And it's very important, because we have to understand that it doesn't matter how bad you think things are. Things can get very worse, and they can get very worse very quickly. And so that means that it's important that we learn to be able to do things within the confines of the law, to be able to protect the order that we have, even while making our voices heard. So I believe that personally, there is no place for violence. There's no place for anarchy. There's no place for looting, for vandalism in a proper protest. That's not the goal of protesting. And these things, the right to protest does not include the right to vandalism. It does not include the right to chaos, to anarchy. It does not include the right to looting people's stores, and destroying public properties and infrastructure. And I also believe that it's very responsible that when people are organizing protests, for instance, some of the people like Yemi Shola, for instance, who has been one of the proponents of this whole protest and this movement. I think the language is like, days of rage, revolution now, and when you are talking about revolution in terms of anarchy, in terms of destruction, in terms of killing and assassinations and things like that. I think that that's I think it's very irresponsible. I will end by saying this. Learning how to organize and strategize politically is actually the way out of bad governance. And just, keep following the channel and keep looking out for the videos that I'll be releasing within the next few days. I will be sharing my own thoughts and my own ideas as to how we can organize, as to some of the root causes of the problems that we have in this country politically, and the practical steps that we can take now to start to organize and strategize politically to phase out the current people that we have in power. And that's not just talking about, the president or whoever is sitting in the position of the presidency. I'm talking about the positions of power and authority in this country, from the presidency in the capital of the country all the way down to the local government, to the local governments in this country. I think that's what we have to learn to do. We have to learn to organize and to strategize politically to be able to phase out the current system and the kind of people who run that system, and then to be able to then usher in a new system that is going to take the place of the current system, where the new system is now going to be populated with the right people, the people that are going to move this country forward. And that includes the right people all the way from the presidency to the 36 state governors, to the local government chairman, all the seats of legislature all across this country, all the political seats across this country. That's the way that you can end bad governance in a society. You have to replace the old system with a new one. The idea of trying to protest or to fight the old is not automatically going to bring about the new. If you learn to create a new, the new will naturally replace the old. And until we learn how to replace the old system with the new, not just replace the old president with a new president, or to replace one old governor with a new governor, but to replace the entire whole system with a new system that is oriented towards the good, that is oriented towards prosperity, towards progress, towards integrity, towards competence. Until we learn how to do that, we'll just continue to just hit our heads on the wall, but the wall is never going to cave in for us. The way to change a society, the way to replace or to get good governance and to get rid of bad governance, is actually to replace the system that is responsible for that bad governance, to replace it with a new system that will then usher in the era of good governance. I am going to share my ideas on how we are going to achieve that, because it can be achieved. It can very much be achieved, and it's even way easier than people think. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of effort. It's going to take a lot of organization. It's going to take a lot of synergizing. People are going to have to come together and work together. But I do believe that it can be done. And I'm going to share my thoughts on how that can be done. Until I see you again, my name remains Isaac. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, like this video, and peace.